Hello and welcome to the Restricted Area Podcast, where we break down the week in NBA and WNBA action. I am your host, Alex Perez, joined by co-host Logan Hatfield. How we doing?
I am doing good, doing good. My most successful hate watch of all time is over, and we're feeling pretty good about it. So I'm doing wonderful.
Understandably so. It was a great finals nonetheless. Really excited to get into the talks about it. But yeah, nothing new for me, so let's go ahead and get into it.
All right.
Very exciting championship, historic one to say the least in the NBA. What stood out about how the Knicks got it done?
Just the fact that one, it's championship number one since was it 1973, so their first championship in 53 years.
53, yeah.
So very very impressive for New York. Very happy for the city of New York. Honestly, I feel like they've been waiting for one for a while. Had to go through some stretches of some tough basketball where Courtney Lee was their best player. So um, it doesn't get much worse than that. But you gotta feel really good for the Knicks fans, and I don't have any really sympathy for Spurs fans either, to be honest. They've had theirs in recent years. So no, but I mean, I think just the way that the Knicks got it done, this was a pretty unique finals in the way that until like the fourth quarter of all these games, I didn't think they had a chance, and then they did all of a
Yeah.
sudden. So for them to get it done in 5 games in that fashion is pretty impressive. To not only be a pretty significant underdog and then win in 5 games, but to do it in the fashion they did, it's pretty impressive. So it was unique. It was a fun series. Like there wasn't a game where I wasn't like super engaged. So I gotta give the Knicks and Spurs props for putting on a show, and props to the Knicks for winning in the clutchest way possible.
Goodness, yeah. A lot of people getting their validation. Brunson, they said he couldn't do it. He's too small. That was wrong, very wrong. Cat, so much has been talked about him. He finally stepped up and was the best big man out there for at least 4 or 5 games. So 4 of the 5 games. So he gets his validation. Mike Breen has had to call all those games for those bad, terrible, terrible Nick teams. So I'm really glad that he got to call this one. That was really fun to see. But yeah, just breaking it down a little bit more. Game 4, everything's going right for the Spurs. 2 turnovers in the first half, biggest halftime road lead in finals history, and most threes and a half in finals history as well. And then it all fell apart. Um, as we all know, De'Aaron Fox had one of the biggest bonehead plays at the end of that game we've ever seen, not only in finals history, I think in NBA history. Uh, so I know he's really not one of the young players that we talk about on the Spurs, but my big takeaway from this is that all these collapses that the Spurs had in this series, do you see that that's just as simple as the inexperience that they've had, or what do you count it as?
Yeah, I mean, they talk a lot about inexperience, playoff inexperience in particular, and this was something you saw with that young Thunder team 2 years ago, the 2024 Western Conference semifinals, where yeah, they finished first in the West, but you saw what happened when they went up against Dallas, who had players like Luka and Kyrie who had more playoff experience than them, and Dallas ended up winning in 6. But the next year, that experience wasn't a factor anymore. And OKC came in and steamrolled the West and ended up winning in the NBA Finals. So now I think that's a similar situation to the Spurs. Now I think the Spurs are going to be facing stiffer opposition than the Thunder did.
For sure.
And the West is only getting better, especially with possibilities of teams landing other superstars. I know the Giannis trade talks have heated up, and it's looking like he'll probably stay in the East, but you never know if a team from the West could swoop in and try to make a play on him. If LeBron's going to go somewhere else in the West, there's a lot of different moving pieces going on, and I think the West is only going to improve. But I do think that the lack of experience, and for De'Aaron Fox being as old as he is, this is only his second playoff run ever.
That's true.
So for him to have to do this in his second playoff run, like the only guy really on that Spurs team who has the experience necessary for this is Harrison Barnes, and if that's going to be your bar, then we got to kind of figure something else out. So I think it's going to be helpful for them having this experience now, but the competition only gets stiffer. but I think they're going to be better built for it next year and in the future. I don't think this is like the end of what we'll see from Wemby, but if the Spurs want to win a title, he has to play better in the playoffs than he did.
Yeah.
He especially in the finals, but the inexperience definitely showed. And you got to see players on the Knicks who've been in the playoffs a few times and had a bit more experience. So I think it definitely was very helpful for them.
Yeah, Barnes wasn't great in his finals a decade ago, so expecting him to be a veteran presence here is just not a realistic thing. So,
Exactly.
just a tough kind of spot for the Spurs to be in there. Um, as you spoke to it, still a fantastic finals. You never really knew who was going to win. The only NBA finals to have two games end in 1 point victory. So I think the average margin was 4 points. So great games all around. It's just, it seemed like inevitable after every game that the Knicks were just going to do it punch by punch. And they did so in game five. I think after the Knicks had four field goals in the first quarter and we're only down 10, I think you started to realize that it might just be destiny at this point because then they kept chipping away and chipping away. They had less than 20 points with under uh, halfway to go in the second quarter. But I don't really feel like there was ever a point where anybody ever really felt they were out of it, and they proved why. The bench was really bad in that game. They didn't have their first bench points until the minute left in the third quarter. So shout out to Jalen Brunson, who was again fantastic. Uh, Spurs led every game by 10 plus, and for 72% of the series overall. Again, that speaks to the lack of experience there. A couple of questions I had for you after this whole series. Brunson, 36 and 45 in those two last games. Uh, Besides SGA last season, do you remember a time where we had a finals performance like this from a guard? Because I can't remember one quite that recently.
I mean, 2022 Curry, but that wasn't even this good. I mean, I would have to go back to possibly like early Curry finals, maybe even all the way back to like Dwayne Wade '06. Like
Yeah.
we're looking at some long lengthy distances between these. So I would say yeah. I mean, obviously I put SJ up there. He had a great finals, but I think what really defines this is the fact that just last week we were talking about how the Finals MVP was a toss up between OG and Cat,
Hmm.
and Brunson was essentially an afterthought because I mean he was playing good, but he was kind of sandbagging for the first three quarters of the game, and then game five, I mean he just took over and was basically the only source of offense for 85% of that game for the Knicks. So you got to give credit where credit's due. I think he earned that Finals MVP. And I will put that up there with some of the great guard performances in finals history.
Yeah, 45 of the 94 points. You can't ask for much more from a closeout championship game. But to that end, I feel like two of the things that define definitely game five and maybe the series is one, the Spurs' refusal to double Brunson and De'Aaron Fox's inexplicable shot taking at the worst moments. Is there anything else that stood out to you, or would you agree that those were kind of like the defining things, especially in that closeout game?
I just think there was a lot of different moments of young Spurs players making costly mistakes and not stepping up in the moments. I mean, we've talked about Wemby's mishaps, missing clutch free throws in game
Mm-hmm.
four, uh, crucial turnovers in big moments. Missing another clutch free throw in game five. Just it kind of felt like the moment was a little bit too big. And then for a guy like Stephon Castle to play as good as he did and then absolutely drop a stinker in game five
Yeah.
is not very uncharacteristic for him. I think the only consistent young player the Spurs had all series was Dylan Harper. And for Dylan Harper to go out there and show what he showed, I think that's pretty scary and going to put the league on notice. But he can't do it all himself, right? So I think it was just different categories of different kind of mishaps by youthful Spurs players that need to be corrected. And again, like we talked about, for a guy like Mitch Johnson to have to follow up the act that Greg Popovich had, that's pretty difficult. But it's go time now. He's had his first taste of the finals. Now it's time for him to correct those mistakes. So I don't think you can put it all on just a few things. It was kind of death by a thousand cuts for the Spurs, and they did it to themselves.
Yeah, for sure. And something that's not talked about enough. We are putting a lot on the players and experience, but as you said, the coaching inexperience was very obvious in this one. And not putting Harper into that starting lineup, I feel like will be something that Mitch Johnson thinks about for a long time. But to that end, Harper, I mean, he was good down the stretch in most of the games, but Wemby just obviously did not have it at the end of those games. So, do you think this is something that they can develop into, or do you think that the Spurs kind of need to seek out veteran options to kind of be closers in those moments?
I think it's a combination of both, and I think it's gonna like something with a guy like Wemby, who is a world renowned talent, and I think I'm impressed by the way he can get to his spots and put up jumpers. But if it's a tie game or you're down one and you're 7'4", you got to get to the paint. You can't. He's not
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant. He's
Right.
not Kevin Durant. He's Victor Wembanyama, right? And he's 7'4". He needs to stop trying to get to the elbow and put up a contested jumper. I mean, I admittedly it is hard to contest him, right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
releasing the ball above where the backboard is, so it's hard to get up there and contest it. But it's even harder to contest him when he's in the paint. He can
Mm-hmm.
stand up and essentially put the ball in the hoop. So I think if it's a clutch situation, he needs to be getting as close to the rim as humanly possible. And he's seen success doing that in the past, but he's trying too hard to hit a logo three, which admittedly he did in the conference finals. I'll give him credit for doing that
Yeah.
once. But he's trying too hard to have those Kevin Durant style moments where that's not him. He needs to stick to what he knows is going to work. So I think that's the number one thing. And I think having veteran options to close out can help, but it can only do so much if you're not even going to give those veteran players options to close it out, right? I mean, De'Aaron Fox
Yeah.
is someone we've seen close out games before. Obviously, he had a mishap or two this series, but he's someone we've seen win clutch player of the year. He's someone we've seen hit some of the like nastiest clutch shots I've ever seen. For him to not even really get a chance, especially like in a situation like game two, it's
Yeah.
just it's disheartening, and it makes me think of even if they get those other options for closeouts, those veterans, will Mitch Johnson even put the ball in their hands, or is he going to try and still play through Wemby every time?
That is a very good point. Um, uh, Fox is. I know you had some of the stuff you want to bring up, but Fox was the last thing I kind of wanted to bring up. Do you think they move on from him? I mean, it's a pretty tough contract to move on from, but or do you think they just kind of stay pat and are happy where they're at right now?
I think that they're trying to clear the runway for Dylan Harper to take over the starting point guard position. So if they can move off of Fox, they will. And I'm sure there'll be a team who's kind of teetering on the edge of contention right now who will look for a veteran guard presence. Who that is, I don't know yet, but I think that there could be a team possibly coming out of the East that could try and make a run at De'Aaron Fox. But I think it would be in the Spurs' best interest to trade him, not because I think he's a bad player by any means, but I'm just not too sure he fits the timeline of this team with where they are. I mean, it was a good like presence to have, and I think it helped Wemby out a lot. But I think that moving forward, Dylan Harper's the guy, and I think that if they can move off of De'Aaron Fox and get a solid return while also getting that contract off the books, it would position the Spurs better. But I just don't know if they can.
Yeah, 60 mil he's due in next season or the season after. So that is certainly something tough to move off of. Maybe a play-in team or a rebuilding team takes that chance, but we'll see. What else did you have, Logan?
Yeah, I think one of the things I wanted to talk about is how these past 2 years, two consecutive finals, we've just nearly missed an OKC versus New York finals. And I feel like that's
Hmm.
kind of what people have been looking for out of both of those finals and both of those
Yeah,
conference finals pairings. But just each year, one of them missed the mark with the Pacers beating the Knicks in 25 and the Spurs beating the Thunder in 26. So I want to ask you, do you think that 27 is the year we could possibly get that finals finally?
uh, OKC, I like their chances a whole lot, as we talked about before. If J Dub's healthy, I think that Western Conference Finals series is obviously a lot different. So I think they make it there. The Knicks, it just depends on those salaries because those salaries are going to be something crazy here in the next season or two. So can they keep that up? We will see. Do they make any drastic moves? They obviously stayed pat this season and made the right choice there. Hopefully they don't. But yeah, next year, if it's going to happen, I think it's next year for sure.
Right. And it seems like, I don't know, before the season, the Knicks probably weren't as talked about as you would have expected. So,
Yeah.
what are some other dark horses you're seeing possibly for next year to make a run at the finals, right? You got the favorites like San Antonio and Oklahoma City are laid in as the favorites now, but could you see a team possibly like the Atlanta Hawks or something like the LA Clippers being able to make a possible run here in the future?
I think the Clippers would need a lot of help before they could do that. The Hawks, obviously, it's the Spurs, but like point 0.5. They have a whole lot of young, great players, and they can certainly get there. They definitely have a great coach, so I don't think they would have struggled with those issues once they made the finals. It's just finding the pieces to put around those young guys. But I definitely could see Atlanta making a run like that. Obviously, wherever Giannis goes, especially if it's Minnesota, because I've heard that rumor, and boy, do I like that a lot. Now, if they're not giving up Randall or Gobert, what kind of sense does that make? But if they give up one of those pieces and Giannis is on that team with that gritty defense and that gritty team, I think they should, I guess, be a dark horse as of right now,
Yeah.
and maybe one of the favorites once that trade is made, if it is.
Yeah, I see right now with the Timberwolves sitting at 30-1 odds. If they were to get Giannis, obviously those odds would skyrocket. But I think like a team like Miami right now out of the East sitting at 40-1, they're currently, I would say, the leader in the Giannis sweepstakes, and really the only team that I think is actually submitting offers to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So like a team like that could get a major boost from Giannis. You'd probably lose some stellar guard play, and a player like Tyler Hero, there's no way he's not involved in that deal. But
Finally.
yeah, right. But I think the biggest dark horse in the NBA next year could be a healthy Washington Wizards roster. If
Okay.
that roster with veteran presence like Trae Young and Anthony Davis is healthy with some of the young players they have, and obviously they're going to have their pick of the litter this year in the draft.
Hmm.
So uh, that could be a scary team. That could be a really, really scary team if everything's clicking, if everyone's healthy, and if that team can shape up to the way the roster is showing. That could be a possible like 3 or 4 seed conference finals run style team. And I think I'm here for it personally. The Wizards have kind of been dwelling in the basement for a while, and we haven't seen really good Wizards playoff hoops in 10 years. So I think that'd be something that would be really good for the league.
Well, it's like Knicks basketball. They were in the bottom for so long, and now I think it's time for a Wizards run just like that. Yeah, they're either, I mean, they're going to get the top pick, obviously, but like no matter who you pick, whether it's Peterson or Devonta, it's going to be a great pick, and it's going to be somebody that really bolsters that team. And we've seen Trey Young in the playoffs. If he makes it there, it's going to be special. It's going to be fireworks, whether they're competing for a championship or not. They're always going to at least have a chance with Trey Young on the team.
And I've seen Anthony Davis in the playoffs too. And those are two guys that when they're there, they can get the job done. It's just a matter of getting there. They haven't really been on teams that get there super often, excluding Anthony Davis during his stint in LA. But for him to spend that much time in New Orleans, he didn't get to the playoff run. But
Yeah,
I
hope he
think
can stay healthy.
that's gonna be a duo I'm watching all season. I think the Trey Young, Anthony Davis pick and rolls, lobs. I think that's going to be a really fun offense. I just can't wait to see what that's going to look like over there in DC.
Yeah, my only concern is him not staying healthy and then them trying to tank it for many more seasons and then derailing that. But if they do let him play as he can, obviously we've seen he could be at the top of the league and be making a championship run. I hope so, because I'd like to see AD. Too much trash talk on him.
Yeah, absolutely,
Uh,
absolutely.
Anything else?
No, that's all for me.
All right. Well, we will go ahead and move on to our WNBA power rankings, where we list our top three teams in the W. Logan, who you got this week?
Yes, a little bit of a shakeup in my rankings. Finishing in third currently for me is the New York Liberty, riding a 7-game winning streak right now, en route to the number 3 record in the W. They are playing a great brand of basketball right now and have skyrocketed since I last did some rankings. And then I do have a flip flop up top. I am going to be putting the Lynx now at number 2 following their defeat at the hand of my number one, the Las Vegas
Mm.
Aces, who are currently riding a 6-game win streak, featuring a win over the aforementioned Minnesota Lynx. We talked a lot about how the Lynx defense was the defining factor, and while I still think the Lynx play better defense than the Aces, they did not very recently. So I got to give the
That's
Aces
true.
credit. In terms of power rankings, head-to-head matters for me. Recency bias is everything. So the Aces are they're the cream of the crop right now, and they're at the top of the W.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks in a row now our lists are identical. So New York is my number three, 7 game win streak, very impressive. Still doing it without Sabrina. I think she still only played that 1 game this season, which is insane. Uh, Hopefully she's healthier than the Liberty are letting on, and it's more of a load management situation. I think that's happening around the league a lot more now with the new contracts and stuff. They're wanting to keep those star players as healthy as possible, especially for the playoff runs. Number two, Minnesota, 10-3, tied for first. Olivia Miles, there's nothing else that we can say besides she's been the best rookie and maybe a top 10 player in the league this year. She's been incredible. Fee, again, same thing with Sabrina. I hope she's healthier than they're letting on because I want to see both of these teams at their best. Las Vegas is at their best right now. Um, Tied for first, 10-3, 7-1 on the road. That's championship basketball. They haven't played many home games, which is a crime, honestly. It's very weird. Kennedy Carter finally getting those minutes back. We'll see if that stays the course. But if they have that offensive firepower, I don't see a lot of people changing Las Vegas being one in the power rankings anytime soon.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any more conflicts of interest. The Stanley Cup is over. The Vegas Golden Knights did not win, so there should be nothing stopping the Aces from playing some home games now.
Okay.
Let's make that
Maybe
happen.
that's what it was. All
I
right.
don't even think
Not
that's
too
what it was
familiar with
because
hockey, but I don't know.
there's no way that that's the reason they're not getting home games. The W just needs to let them play in Vegas like once or twice. Like it'd be nice.
They saw that ring nine. They said no more.
Yeah.
Anyways, that'll do it for these power rankings, and we were gonna let them go and move on to our WNBA pick 'em, where we pick our winners for the biggest games in the W this week. The first one I have for you is 10 p.m. Wednesday on League Pass. It's the Wings at the Valkyries. Who you got?
Battle of two teams sitting at the same record at 8-5 right now, both vying for playoff position. I'm gonna take the team that's been here just a little bit longer. I'm gonna go with the Dallas Wings. They just they were in my top three last time. Paige Beckers is playing questionable right now, which could definitely impact my decision come game time if she is still questionable. But I think I'm going to take the star power of the Wings to overpower the balanced scoring attack that the Valkyries bring in that one.
Yeah, that's pretty much my big headline. It's amazing coaching versus incredible talent. I think the game plan for Golden State will be really great, and they'll be able to limit at least one of those stars that Dallas has. But I feel like AZ, Page, or Enrique find their footing in that game and are able to pick up the slack for where one of these other stars may be cut off. And I feel like Dallas wins this one in a very close, fun game. And then the other one I have is Thursday, 7:30 p.m. on Prime. It's the Dream at the Fever. Who you got?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I think this could end up being a shootout. I really think this is going to be a fun one. I think we're going to see stellar performances from Ryan Howard and Caitlin Clark. And honestly, like this one, it's hard to even say like you want someone to win. We're going to root for good basketball, but I'm going to go with the home team on this one. I'm going to take the Fever. I think this is going to be just as good, if not a better game as the first one we picked between. So give me the Fever in this one, and it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, I'm a little more biased. I want to see the Fever win. It seems that they've had Atlanta's number as of recently, upset them in the first round last season, beat them by 12 in their first matchup this season. But Ryan Howard had 8 points in 37 minutes in that first matchup. I don't expect that to happen again. I expect she'll be more than ready for this game and probably will be the best player on the court in this one. So give me the Dream in this one. And now we will move on to our shooting star where we pick our baller of the week. Who you got, Logan?
So I actually split it up this week. I wanted to highlight, obviously, my NBA shooting star. Who else could I pick besides Jalen Brunson, the reigning Finals MVP? As much as that hurts me to say, he is the reigning Finals MVP. Putting up performances of 32, 36, and 45 points consecutively, just getting better and better as the series progressed, coming off of a game 2 where he only scored 20, then proceeding to go crazy for the next 3 games. Averaged over 30 points per game during the series, so you got to give him his props for that. And then I also want to shout out my WNBA shooting star for the week. That is one Asia Wilson, of course. I mean, who else could it possibly be? The WNBA's greatest player of all time is continuing to show why she is exactly that, putting up 34, 12, and 9 6 days ago against Seattle, while also putting up 32, 5, and 4 at Portland, and then 24 and 10 with 3 blocks against the Lynx, continuing to show why she is the GOAT and will forever be the GOAT of the WNBA.
Yeah, that absurd shooting really hasn't gone down that much either. She's still making about a 3 a game. So look out, league, because it's about to get scary, even scarier.
Third in the league in 3-point percentage.
Yeah, she's not human. I thought maybe in a part, but nope. Anyways, Brunson deserves all his flowers for sure. Mine's a little more biased with the Kentucky alum and Carl Anthony Towns. I definitely want to give him his flowers. Forced to go face to face with a generational player on a generational run, and as I said earlier, was the best player in 4 of those 5 games, probably, and talked bad about for so long. Unfair criticism, and he rose to the occasion. And he is the first center in NBA history to go 50, 40, 90 in a championship run. Best shooting big man maybe ever. Dirk obviously has some say in that, but it's got to be 1 and 2 right there now because he's just proven time and time again he's going to impact basketball at every single level that he can.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just takes me back to all those like things where it's like picking a player to start a franchise from, who would you pick? And like over half the league's GMs are picking Karl Towns. And it's finally come to fruition that in year 11, Karl Towns is able to get this done. So I'm just super impressed by how he stuck it out. He stayed the course. And the only switch up he did was adding a 3-point shot to his game. And it ended up being the best thing he could have possibly done, because he went from a back to the basket center to being able to evolve his game from that to being more of a modern stretch 4 center kind of player. And no matter what his role was, no matter where he was playing, he was absolutely happy with it and made the best of every situation he was in.
Did he add that or was he not allowed to use it? Anyways, I digress. This is an NBA show, not a college basketball show. Anyways, Kat, my player of the week, shooting star. Good job. I'm very happy for you, buddy. But that will do it for this episode of the Restricted Area podcast. Be sure to follow the show's YouTube at CX Restricted Area. You can follow the CX crew on all socials at CX Pod Network. You can follow me on Twitter at The Will Deal and Logan on all socials at LoganH_4. Thank you all for listening and watching. And until next week, like the champagne flowing in New York, be smooth.